this. You messaged me about you were playing, and then when you took the headset off, you're like looking at your own hands. You're like, "Oh, am I in the virtual reality world?"
No. When I was
actually
texting you that, I was just doing it like this, as if it was, and then I was like feeling like, wait, this is. I'm like trying to touch a keyboard, like the keyboard on the iPhone, touch a letter.
Yeah.
It's like this feels like me trying to, like in I think No Man's Sky, trying to click that button or something. It's like,
oh wow. See, that's the trip too, because you're like, where's this gonna lead psychologically? Because you're right. I mean, wait, hold on. I looked at it already like that. Like, it's like a heads-up display when I'm looking through my eyes. I'm pretending it's like a heads-up display.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
Sure. But like, this is like
trippy for people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're not, I think this is like, but again, it's probably just because it's new. It takes time to really like get used to it, I guess, because you're realizing what this means, right? It's a simulation world, like that's what it's connecting. Yeah. So
but, you know, it'd be trippy. You said this last. I don't know if you said this on the podcast or after the podcast, but you were like climbing some stuff in the VR world, and you look down, you'd be like, "Oh, this is actually kind of freaky."
Yeah, the heights and stuff.
You actually feel, you feel the sensation.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine if it'd be interesting if you played like a VR game where you visited the hospital and they gave you an injection. Would you feel the same, like, ooh?
I think you could. Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mind could.
Right.
Your mind does play tricks. Like you're not like looking off a cliff, but you still feel like you're looking off a cliff, right? So.
Right. Yeah. And see, that's what could be really, really trippy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where does that psychologically go for people? You know, like,
that's why it's a new world. VR is really a new world where all these experimentations are happening. Like I was showing, I think I did some clips. I haven't sent it to you, but it's like there's weird games out there that they're just trying to see what works. It's all experimental.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, see that's the new frontier too. Like this moment we'll look back on it in 10 years, or like the kids from now will look back on 10 years and be like, that was a moment in time where VR was so new, and like they're going to experience what we experienced, which is like true innovation.
Yeah, because like all the demos I've tried they're different. They're not like the same kind of games.
Yeah.
Right. Even the shooters, or like I think I did like a Star Wars demo.
Wait, that's actually interesting that you say that they're all different, because remember, I saw this post too, like the games with the most, the consoles with the most games. PS1 had 7,000 video games, and the next one that came after was like PS3, I think was like 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're doing what you're saying right now is just like back in the day, they're just testing like what's gonna work.
Yeah.
You know? And then like now you're saying it's like probably there's gonna be thousands of VR games, because like people are like, let's see what works.
Yeah, and I think it all depends on investment. It didn't work in, I don't know how many games they had in was it PS4 with that VR? Because this is now PSVR 2, right? The version 2. So, but I think it's really because of Meta. And Meta's pushing this game thing that I feel like they're making games for both systems. They can just do that now, I guess.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. Oh, I didn't know that. I saw this thing, like, I didn't watch the post, but like, Mark Zuckerberg had tested out, the Apple Vision, and he was just talking about it. Yeah, it's funny because it's like, back in the day, you had, PlayStation was the biggest innovator, or Nintendo and PlayStation, right? Sega too, actually. Nintendo, Sega, and PlayStation. And then you had...
I think Sega was the main one, right? They are the ones who did the discs first, right? Was it?
No, cartridges. Because I had a
Sega. They had the first one. Yeah, they had cartridges, but...
Oh, you're thinking of Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dreamcast was the first CD. Or one of the first CDs. So there's those, yeah. So Dreamcast, Sega, PlayStation, Nintendo. And then move forward, you have like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Right. And then now we're hitting a new realm, which is going to be like PlayStation, Apple, Meta. You know, it's like, unless we see what Nintendo comes out with, but we are hitting an innovation phase again with VR, and it's exciting.
Hmm.
I don't think that I don't think it's a necessarily a bad thing. Like, because everyone's like, what are the psychological ramifications of like this? But it's like, sure.
But we've said that for all technologies that come.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
forward.
say, right? Yeah. Like when they're like, "Oh, fighting video games will make you more violent." You're
Yeah, or shooting, all the
Yeah.
Call of Duty stuff, which is
Okay.
not true, but yeah.
Actually, all right. So that's funny that you say that because Tara brought that up, and it was like that old study where we're like, "Oh, it's not true." There's a newer study where it is true now. Like they redid that study and like updated it. So allegedly, it does make you more prone to violence if you play violent video games. But I mean, like, there's still laws. Like,
I think it depends on how the study is done. I don't know what they were looking at. Like, sure, but like, there. I understand by prone to violence, but I don't know if people are going out and necessarily using guns in that sense.
Yeah, there's like laws. And, like,
Yeah.
maybe it's violent in other ways. Like, oh, okay, so I started taking like martial arts classes because I was inspired, and like, okay,
Sure.
that's technically
Yeah.
violent. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but like, yeah, that's why like laws exist. Like, there's no you're not gonna run around shooting people up. That was a crazy one too. Like, I won't even get into that, but running around shooting people up, that was a moment too when that was going on when we were younger. Yeah, it's just like but I don't even know. Is it heyday? Like looking back at the '90s, or was it actually a good time?
Yeah, probably both. I think in that sense.
Yeah. Do you think our parents were like back in the '60s during the Love Revolution?
No, it depends on where they're from, but I don't think technology was what changed everything. There was an internet.
Okay, yeah.
That came in our time. Yeah, that's
that was like the real heyday.
Yeah,
That's when like the Wild West. You're like, well, I don't know what's going on. You can find anything on the internet. Yeah. So you're like deep into the VR space now with
I haven't bought. I was then. That's why I took a break. I was like, okay, let me take a break to get my.
Oh, kind of weird.
Yeah, but I'm back on it. But I haven't been like on it for. I haven't used it for like long hours. It was just like an interesting feeling when I was like just looking at my hands typing. I was like, this feels like this is a No Man's Sky because you're using hands in a way. You're pointing at things or clicking things. It's like it's the same feeling.
Yeah. So like it'll be interesting with Apple Vision Pro. Because that's like your
is your own hand. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's your own hands, right? Too. So I think it may be different. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So like that sense of disassociation from like who you are.
Right. That's where
this is my hand. Is not my hand. Like that. That'll be interesting to see come up in the future because of these augmented realities like Apple Vision Pro.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, like the PlayStation 1, you're still holding like joysticks and stuff, right?
Yeah, you have a controller. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like still one step removed from like.
But most of I think it's only Apple that has just using your own hands. So.
Oh really? Oh, okay, that's unique. Not even the Oculus, like the Meta.
No, they all have controllers.
That's pretty innovative then. Yeah. Anything else about the VR?
I still have trying to find a game like to buy. I haven't really bought anything.
I mean, like,
I've only been
No
using
Man's
the
Sky,
ones.
though.
Yeah, that's. But
pretty
I bought that like back in PS4 times, so I still have.
Dude, that wasn't technically it wasn't built for VR.
But they made it for VR now. Like you can.
No, now, but
Yeah. It wasn't
right. If you had built the game from the jump as a VR game, you're like, well, what could that have been?
Right,
Because there must be limitations, right? They're like, I didn't know I could do this. Now that
I guess,
VR.
yeah, you're. I understand that, but I think you can still. They had to rethink the game just for VR, right? So you have a VR version that they worked around with the game that they've already created. So
I remember when No Man's Sky came out. So people who don't know, basically it uses like a algorithm so that every time you visit a planet, it'll never be the same planet
Yeah,
twice. So
procedurally generated, as they say.
yeah, so
Yeah,
you can like infinitely
travel the universe basically.
yeah, you can go planet to planet forever and then never get bored. And that's like the big sell of the game. So yeah, that's what we're talking about when we talk about No Man's Sky. But
Hmm.
I didn't think it would be so interesting until VR hit.